Brianna, thanks so much for taking time to hang with us today.
Yeah, thank you. Sounds fun.
So let's just say I'm a mom who hasn't worked for a while and I'm trying to get back into the workforce, but I've got that gap in my resume, obviously. What would you suggest that I do?
So that is actually a hard one. And what I suggest, because people are always going to say, what have you been up to? I mean, we even see it with men that put sabbatical on a resume. And that word, although it shouldn't, has a very negative manner on a resume. And a lot of times people won't keep looking or won't even read what it says. And it could be something really interesting, like I've been traveling, I had a baby, I did this, I did that, whatever it is. Companies don't love it because it's basically like rusty, rusty, rusty. So what I suggest is really just going with a passion-driven title, maybe having the title exactly what job you're applying for. So then it grabs people and they don't immediately go, wait, this person hasn't been working, because that is hard to get over and it's not fair. Really. So you have to have a lot of different buzzwords so your resume is coming up in searches in keyword terms. So I would suggest definitely going on like Indeed, for example, and putting in what you want to apply for. And then I would grab some of those buzzwords and put them into the resume. So you're coming up in the search. And then I also would try to reach out to a recruiter in whatever field that is in, and have them send your resume instead of you just sending it to like a black hole. Mm-hmm. Because that again is super powerful.
So to put a previous job as sustainer of life would not work. I have sustained life for 15 years or whatever.
I know. And you know what? So I have two little kids and, run a business. I got to tell you, running a business is a lot easier. So that is not fair. Actually, I have seen a really awesome resume that I thought was interesting who wasn't just, a stay-at-home mom, how people just say, but no, super powerful. But she wrote the funniest thing under it, change diapers in 30 seconds or less, and she got really fun with it because that is real life. And I think people do still interview based off of personality. I mean, there's so many times people will go through, I do engineering. So there's like really hard interviews and they'll get to the end and they'll say, sorry, not a culture fit. So I've actually had people do the opposite. Oh, great culture fit, not a great tech fit, but I think we can work on it. But no one's going to hire someone that's not a culture fit. So I think that personality really stood out and she had no problem. So I love.
That's great. Yeah. So for somebody who maybe is going, okay, I know we're not in the paper resume world anymore. Like you're talking about search terms, you're talking about, making sure that I'm integrating these terms from Indeed into a resume. Can you help somebody just kind of break down how is a recruiter looking to fill a job? Like how does that process actually work?
Yeah. So a lot of recruiters, I would say most recruiters don't do or even understand what they're recruiting for. Because most industries that are using recruiters, have a struggle. And now with the employment rate, it's like recruiters are being used even more. I mean, and so I'm not a software engineer, but the company, they come up with either the job descriptions or just tell you really, I need X, Y, Z. And if X, Y, Z isn't on their resume, I don't want to talk to them. So there is very powerful to have all of those words because now what's super interesting is the recruiting industry is growing so much that resumes are not going to the hiring manager first, they're going to the recruiter first. So if the recruiter who's been told I need to see X, Y, Z doesn't see that, you're not even getting to the hiring manager. So yeah, it's super important. And really, a lot of people just need to be on LinkedIn. As a recruiter, that's where you go. Again, all industries are different, but that is really where the professional world is going. And, on a side note, my husband has a restaurant and he has a LinkedIn and he still gets hit up by recruiters and stuff like that. So I think every industry now is just about on LinkedIn. I think that's super powerful. And I mean, how are anyone going to find you?
So LinkedIn is the first step, really. When looking to get that job, got to get your LinkedIn up and running. And if you're talking about whether I've got some experience at some point in time, right, that I'm looking for a job, whether I've been at home or not as a mom, what do I need to know about LinkedIn? Like, what are the key points that are like no-brainers? You've just got to do this.
So you have to have some kind of substance on there. And again, I think personality plays into that too. There is the headline part, and I've seen people be pretty obvious and be like, I'm looking for a job. I do not suggest that whatsoever. You can be very much desperate on the, on the inside, but you don't want to come across that on the surface. And if you just want to come across like, hey, I'm cool, I have options, so you have to play it cool there. But what LinkedIn has, and a lot of people don't know about, is they have this beautiful button called Open to Opportunities. And so what that does is it alerts people like myself or just companies saying, hey, I'm interested. And you can put exactly what you're looking for. You can put where you're looking for and any little more details, and no one can see it unless you have LinkedIn Recruiter, which is very expensive and worth it. You can't see it, not even your own company. So people that are like, well, I'm employed, but I don't want my employer to know, but I need help. They aren't allowed to see it.
Okay, so only somebody who purchases LinkedIn Recruiter can see that open to opportunities. So it's safe to do.
Totally safe.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So what about like headshot and schools and testimonials and all of those other things that I see on there? If I'm looking for a job, are all those things important? What do I need to focus on there?
They are important. I think the whole professional headshot thing is no longer, not too much, just like cover letters, no longer. You do need a picture though. And I've seen lots of people do like, oh, I like fishing, so I have a picture of me fishing. So people do, again, put their personality forward on that. I don't suggest, although I love my kids, I don't suggest putting like kids in it. I think it's real and everything, but I think you need a little bit more. It's about you at that point and what you can give to them. I think that's important. You definitely need some kind of substance, on there. Like let's say you've been at a job for 5 years and you have one sentence. It's like, okay, you can sum up your 5 years in one sentence. That's probably not a good thing. And as schools are really great if you have it. I don't suggest high school unless you're 18.
Right.
Nobody cares about where you went to high school unless, I'll take that back. I have had someone who went to an engineering high school and wanted to just show like, look, I've loved engineering forever. And that's fine. But schools are great too, because it also there's a connection too. So if someone at the company went to your school, bam, LinkedIn spells that out pretty nicely for you.
Okay. So I get my LinkedIn account set up.
Mm-hmm.
Now I've got all these job sites, all these places that are options for me. How do I choose which one to put my resume on? Are there upgrades that I need to take advantage of? What do I need to be thinking about?
So I don't suggest posting your resume ever, because what that is going to do, and this is where I guess the shady recruiting game kind of comes into play, is, so first of all, I haven't had access to job boards. I haven't paid to have access to job boards in over 8 years, because I don't want the people that are on the job boards. Because that to me means you are desperate and absolutely no other way to find a job. Now that's kind of a double-edged sword too, because you're like, well, how am I supposed to find a job? So, I would always use Recruiter. Yes, I'm a recruiter, but here's why. I have quite a few different examples. I'll just give you one. But I have companies that, first of all, maybe they don't even write their own job descriptions. They take it from other companies. They ask me to write them, or they just even tell me. So a lot of times you don't even know really what an updated job page is. So let's say you find like, oh, I really want to work for, I don't know, Coca-Cola. And I go on Coca-Cola's website. I apply to their position and no one's gotten back to me. Well, that can mean lots of different things. One, no one saw your resume, probably. Two, it's not updated. So it's not even a job. So you're like wasting your time on so many things that just don't make sense. So really, I would say find a recruiter in your industry, because my resumes get to the top. And the reason why is because they don't want to look at the hundreds of resumes they already have through their queue. They would rather pay a fee to me and have me say, here's who's great for you, than go through 100 resumes. And some people are like, what do you mean? Why would they rather pay you than go through who's actually applied to their site? That's free leads. Not technically, because it takes so much time to go through resumes, and there's so many other things you could be doing that it just, you're just not going to win. It's just like a black hole. And then, I mean, I've even had people who have like, oh, I applied to so-and-so company before, but I never heard back. I go, you're perfect for them. I bet you they never saw your resume. Do you give me permission? They're like, okay, fine, but I'm just telling you, I applied. Sure enough, they got hired there because I sent her the person's resume.
Yeah.
So,
So you say, find a recruiter in the industry that I'm interested in.
mm-hmm.
And I'm assuming that there are recruiters for every single industry. What are the big categories of recruiters?
Tech, of course, is probably the hugest. Then there's nursing, another really big one. There is the financial industry, accountants, CPAs, stuff like that. There is actually construction. I never in a trillion years would thought that it's a big one, but it is. Restaurants, I was shocked to see how many messages my husband gets. I was like, really? You would like, for me, I'm thinking, oh, only if you pay X amount do recruiters come and step in, but no, admins. I've had all sorts of people reach out to me. And okay, so here's what's funny. I was actually looking for an executive assistant for a long time. And I'm like, what is the deal? Why can't I find this executive assistant? I'm a recruiter. Like, this is what I do for a living. But it was becoming so painful because I don't make money by looking for an assistant. Now this person can help me make money when they're here, but during the process and then interviewing and sifting through all this stuff, I mean, I posted on Indeed and it was a disaster. And so it became really clear to me why people even at that level use recruiters. And so I ended up reaching out to one and yippity skippity. It's over. I got it.
Found you one. That's great. That's great.
Found me one. Yeah, no, there's a ton of industries, but those are lawyers. Lawyers is another big one. And of course, executives, just, any kind of C-level. I don't know. Some people specialize in C-level, but some people specialize in C-level in a particular industry. Like I do C-level too, but only in tech. Like I don't do anything.
Sure. And what about the area of the massive area of sales and, pharmaceuticals and all of that? There are recruiters for those areas, of course.
There are. And it's always interesting because, obviously I have salespeople here. And I have been reached out to recruiters saying, I can find you great salespeople. But for the most part, my people work on commission. So I don't even really understand how they do that fee. And because they're not getting a base. And it's kind of silly to say, okay, I'm going to give you a percentage off of their percentage when that, I don't like it, but no, a lot of people do sales industry as well. For me, sales is very much a personality thing, and it's not always based off of real results, I guess, because how can you really say you can make them up? You can make up results, right? And salespeople are probably the best at doing that. So yeah, I don't touch anything in sales.
Mm-hmm. But just to, for people that are not aware of it, recruiters get paid, you said, based on a percentage of the base salary of the person.
Yes, of the first year salary. Yes. Okay. Not off of any bonuses or equity. I wish, but no, just of the base salary.
Okay, great. So I'm not putting my resume out there unless I'm really desperate, which I hear people all the time doing this. If I'm trying to find a recruiter in my industry, how do I go about that? That feels like a job in and of itself, trying to find a recruiter.
Kind of. So you would just go on LinkedIn and put recruiter and then whatever industry you're in. And it doesn't matter. See, the problem is that it doesn't really matter where they are. Mm-hmm. Now, if it's a good recruiter, they've already have this search down. So for me, even though I'm in Southern California, I only do the Bay Area. So my LinkedIn says I'm in the Bay Area. And that's how all recruiters should do it. But that's not always the case. So I would just go based off of, because once you get into location issues, it's a whole other mess. So I would just put in your location and what your industry is, what you're searching for.
Okay. And most recruiters are recruiting for a specific geographical area, or some people nationwide?
Some people nationwide, but for the most part, if you want to be specialized, you're definitely doing a particular location. I mean, I couldn't even wrap my head around doing another one. Like we have clients also that have an office in New York and LA. And even Austin, but although I'm in LA, I don't want to do LA. They're totally different, completely different people, completely different ball game. Same with New York. Then you have to learn the locations, and it's a mess. You want someone that specializes in your location, in your industry. And at that point, you want to reach out to a few, and you have pretty much a canned response, reach out, say, hey, this is what I'm looking for, XYZ. Can you help me? I'm not in a rush, but you always want to put I'm just pondering, no big deal. Yeah, those things. But I'm telling you, once you put on open to ops and you have keywords in there, recruiters will reach out to you.
Okay.
It's almost impossible for them not to.
And is it bad form to be working with multiple recruiters?
The only bad form is to not know where your resume has been. So the problem is there still are spammy recruiters. So a recruiter will get your resume and send it out to all of their clients that they deem worthy or that you're a fit for on paper. Now, in theory, that sounds like a great idea because you're doing zero work, but it's not, because you don't know where your resume is. And you also, first of all, you don't even know if you're interested in those things. So as far as the company knows, the company thinks, Brianna is interested in us, and then now she's not getting back. How rude. No, it's not my fault. It's the recruiter's fault. The recruiter pitched me for no reason. So no, you do have to be careful. So when you are, interviewing a recruiter or talking to them, you do say, hey, can you please make sure that you never send my resume without my permission?
Okay.
That's definitely a thing.
And then you need to have essentially a spreadsheet or a list of some sort of where your resume is getting sent. Is that correct?
Yes, you have to. And there's some crazy stuff happening lately where people are being extremely dishonest about it. And so it just looks really poorly on everybody. So for example, I'll say, hey, are you interested in Google? And they'll be like, oh yeah, I'm really interested. I go, have you applied in the last year? Oh no, I have not. Great, I'm going to send you over to Google. Google gets back and says, this person we rejected a month ago. And I go, and he was on site. And I go, great. So then well, I don't want to work with that person. He straight up lied to me.
Right.
And that happens. And then what's crazy is I've heard from companies that they're so interested in that they will change their name, flip-flop their name, change their email just to get an interview again. And so this is actually fun. So I had this happen, and the person does get an interview because no one knows him by this name, and goes in totally different position. So therefore he's not seeing the same people. It's actually a higher position that he got passed forward by something lower. They want to make him an offer for this higher position. And then they do reference checks and realize it's the same person they passed on before. And even though they want him, they can't hire him. He was lying. So it is crazy. Little tangent. It just happened. So it's like.
And so when you have that conversation, do you like if I go into a 7-Eleven, or something like that, you see up on the wall the person who passed the fake money, you post their picture.
Yeah.
You have like a posted picture up on the wall of people that have lied to you.
We wouldn't have room on the wall.
Really? It's that intense?
Yeah, it's that bad. Yeah.
But you remember they're not coming back to you. They're not working with you again.
Oh, no. We have a database, that we've had forever. So yeah, no, there's definitely notes in there about those people that, no, you are not able to talk to us again. We will not work with you.
Yeah. And that's sad. It's easy to laugh and kind of look down on it, but also people are desperate, whether it's desperate for a job or something. It does not warrant, inappropriate behavior, but it points to their desperateness.
Yeah, definitely. It's quite interesting.
Wow. Okay. So let's talk about interviews here for a second. You're dealing with engineers, which is a really specific field. But interviews in general, if I'm getting called in for an interview, what are the basic things that I need to be thinking about? Oh,
you always have to have questions. I would say have 3 to 5 questions prepared always. And the worst thing is when someone goes after the interviews, so do you have any questions? And the response is, no, you guys covered it. You guys do a great job. that is flattering, but only so much, because it just shows that, you couldn't think of anything, or did they really not cover it all? Or, who knows? You just want to have something to come back with, because that's going to be, yeah. So, I mean, just with someone that I had in the other day, like we go back and forth. So there's like 5 different people interviewing this person, right? And we don't always talk about the same thing, but then maybe sometimes we do, because that's the direction of the thing. And so I was on the fence about the person, and I was like, you know what? If this person asks me like the right questions and gets there, then I think we could move forward. So I go, do you have anything? Nope, totally covered it. And
let me interrupt here, because you're interviewing that person before you're going to recommend them to your client. Because you have 2 clients essentially, right? You have, sometimes you would have a client that is just a single individual looking for a job.
Yes.
But you don't really consider that your client though, because you're not getting, right?
Right. They're not paying. Okay. So I was actually talking about my own company interviews, but I could totally flip that. Yeah. Okay. So
gotcha.
Yeah.
You were interviewing somebody to work for your company.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's totally fine. No, I was just thinking that, like, on the cusp, right? And this person can save. And if they don't have questions, then at least have like a closing argument as to why they should work there, right?
Yes.
Maybe the company does have the best interview process in the universe and there's no question left. Maybe, but say something. So you have to close. It's like the worst part, where it's like, you have a really good date, but then that kiss doesn't happen. And even though you both wanted it, it didn't happen. So there's that like weird thing, it's like it's the same situation. But like, you could talk about, where's the company going? What is my job? Who do I report to? What are your hours? Do you guys have, bonding? Do you guys go on any kind of field trips or, whatever, culture? Like what's the culture like? There's just so many different directions I think you could go that aren't normally in an interview, that people just spill, that you can just have those like readily available. Or maybe there is something about the company, or it's like, hey, I was on your guys', I don't know, Instagram, and I saw this really cool post. What do you guys think about that? Or, just something. Or actually, what I really, really, really love when people ask is, what's your favorite part about working here? Because you're putting it on them, and it's super conversational. And it also gives you really good insight as to, should you accept this job if they give it to you? Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, that's a great question. That feels very natural. That feels relational. Like you said, it feels connecting, and you're going to learn something at the same time.
Yeah. And there's no way that they could have already answered it, right? Like, no one just goes, so I love working here because,
right.
Yeah. So it's really a go-to that's pretty simple and really engaging, because I think that's important too. I think the worst questions are, what's your vacation policy? Mm-hmm. What kind of insurance do you guys offer? Like those things, it's like, you can ask that, and those are all valid questions, but ask that after they offer you the job, because then it's actually relevant. It's not relevant right now.
Right.
Because it's going to leave a bad taste in the mouth. They're going to think, you're already thinking about vacation? You haven't even gotten this job.
Right, right. So I've been interviewed. How quickly do I follow up? How should I follow up? If I was placed there in contact with them through a recruiter, is that a different way to follow up?
Yeah. So it all depends on the company. So I would say, gosh, maybe it's 50-50 now. Most companies like to deal directly with the recruiter, and we handle that whole process. However, what I think is really nice is they're shifting, and they're being like, you know what, if this person is going to come work for us, we need to be involved in this process too. And we want to develop a relationship, and we'll just use you as like our second person, which I enjoy. Although it's funny because little power's taken away. And at first I was like, wait, what's this? But no, it's really great because there's a connection with both. It's just important that you stay close. And so the follow-up, I think, has to be within 24 hours. And if you are, I'm assuming you're also talking with the recruiter at the company, whoever's handling that position, whoever's scheduled basically your on-site or your phone interview is the person you should follow up with. And you should say, hey, it was so great meeting so-and-so. I don't have their email address. If you could either give that to me or pass this message along, I would really like it. And that goes for both the company and myself. And then we pass that along, but it's nothing like this, grand thank you letter of any kind, but it's definitely acknowledging, I'm interested. This is why. I hope to hear back from you, kind of a thing. I think that that's really important. And And I know because if a person doesn't do that, I have the company calling me like the next day to be like, okay, so what did they say? We really like this person. And I'm like, ooh, don't know yet. So yeah, but that's also my job in order to, I basically have to make the company look great and make the candidate look great at the same time, and filling in that all in between.
You're a matchmaker. You are a matchmaker.
Matchmaker. Exactly.
Yeah. That is amazing. Okay, so one of the things that I know that you have been offering to people as a job opportunity is teaching people how to become a recruiter.
Yes.
Why would that potentially be? Well, let me back up and say, who would that be a good job for? Who should be looking into that?
So this is a super interesting question, because we've almost had like a little bit of a pivot. So this was originally a course that was built for current recruiters to basically say, let me make you a better recruiter, because I have had so many different recruiters, come and from other agencies. And I am like, how were you a recruiter? Like, what is going on? There is no training. I wasn't trained. Anyone that else has come into here was not trained. It was like this 3-day crash kind of a thing that you're sitting in front of a computer or a whiteboard or whatever it is. There's not a lot of information, I guess, that comes with it. And when you're recruiting, it is very much, how do you deal with situations? And there's tons of different situations. And so I was noticing that in our industry, there was just such a need for us. So therefore, everyone was flocking to it. And then I was having to deal with the in-house recruiters and being like, you do, like, messing everything up. I'm like, you do not know what's going on. Like, everything was fine. You come in and what in the world? So yeah, so that's what it came from. But what's interesting is that now we're getting people, like fresh grads. I think is really interesting because, I was really young when I did it too. And same with a lot of the people that work here. You have this degree. I went to fashion school, right? But like, let's say you go to college because you're told to go to college. Oh, I'm supposed to go to college and get a really good high paying job. And I'm going to work my way up this corporate ladder. That's kind of insane. I'm going to put all these hours. And then you get out and you're like, I don't want to do that. But I need to pay back my loan and I need to make all this money that I was promised I was going to make. And there's just it's an interesting transitional period, I think, for a lot of people, where they're like, oh, shoot, I really have to do something. So that's interesting. And so if anyone has like the hunger or the drive to do more, that's a really cool one. I have seen a lot of people from a psychology background, actually, because they love the way people, interact and think. And it's just, that is exactly what you're doing. You're dealing with it at such a high level. You're basically a career coach, but in different ways. Mm-hmm. And then a lot, I would say probably the most, are people that are in sales now, just in different industries. Because they know the job, they know the gig, they know the commission thing, they understand the highs and the lows. And those are probably the people that really understand it the most and are probably the best at it so far. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's been really interesting. And what's cool about the course is that I finally got to use it this year with my own employees. We doubled in size. And so although I've seen people do the course and I'm pretty involved in it, to a certain extent, right? But like I help them. And I got to do it in my own office with 6 people at once. And it went really well. So I was like, it works. It's amazing. And if I would have had this, like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, it's like, I can only imagine how big my company would be at this point, because it was so easy. So it was really nice. And then I just had recruiting companies actually reach out recently. And I was on the fence about whether or not I was going to make it available, but I'm like, yeah, why wouldn't I? Like, what's the big deal? Everyone should be trained. Everyone should have the same opportunities. I'm fine. Not a big deal.
That's great. And that's available at themillionairerecruiter.com. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Great. Yeah. And we'll obviously have that in all the show notes. As a side note, mom of 2, and you like to work out. Is that correct?
Love it. I'm actually wearing my Nike shirt right now.
Tell us a little bit about what are some of your goals in terms of working out. And I think I might have seen on Instagram some pretty crazy things going on.
Oh yeah, I'm kind of crazy. So I run very, 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 very high. And I actually, I never had anxiety in my life. until I was pregnant, 6 months pregnant with my first child. And I was like, oh, what is this? And it's very common for people to have anxiety and all sorts of stress related things. And I've always been active, but once I heard that, with endorphins and working out, it like evens everything out. I was like, okay, I must work out at least 4 days a week. I do Orange Theory now, which is a really cool class. So, 5:30 in the morning, it just gets me going. And people are like, how do you do 5:30 in the morning? Well, it's like, first of all, I have kids, so they're awake, right? Or pretty soon. But no, it starts everything just really nicely. And then last year, I decided I was getting really just, I don't know, complacent or something. It was just, something just hit me where I'm like, I need a really big challenge. And I have no idea what it's going to be, but it needs to be something like to really get me going, right? And so I racked my brain. I'm like, what is the last thing I ever want to do in my entire life? And that's run a marathon. So I don't run. I'm very, very active, but I do not run. I don't like to run. I never ran more than a mile. And so I started telling people, hey, I'm going to do the marathon, the LA Marathon next year. And they're like, yeah, I'm sure. Like, you hate running, no way. And so that kind of fueled my fire a little bit, because people were telling me I couldn't do it. And they're like, you have to train for it. You need to do X, Y, Z, like all these things. And I'm like, you know what? I'm doing it. So I signed myself up, signed my husband up because he has to do this with me. And I didn't train. And we completed it last year. And it was the most amazing, powerful, emotional thing I've ever done, probably.
You did not train. You showed up and just started running. Yeah. Did you walk?
And we did the, no. I did at least, it's funny. I was emotionally prepared, but I was not physically prepared. So, I'm in good shape, right? But I don't run. And so, no, I just Googled how to do a marathon, all these things. And they have this one thing that you're going 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off. So 30 seconds fast walk, 30-second run. And I'm like, I can do a 30-second run. So I did that the entire way. And I completed, I'm telling you, my husband and I both sobbed like babies. Like, it was crazy.
That's amazing. Did he do the same thing, 30 and 30?
No, he could not wrap his brain around that. And so he just jogged like a snail the entire way. And, but he finished. Like, all we wanted to do was finish. And I just wanted to prove something, that it was just mind over matter. And I wanted to prove that I could do it. And they did. And it was awesome. And then the crazier thing is my husband signed us up for one again this last March. And I did another one.
Wow. Now, have you done a Tough Mudder as well?
Oh, yeah. Those are awesome. Actually, it was funny. My colleague signed me up for one who totally bailed on me and didn't do it. And so, of course, I dragged my husband again on this. And we both did it. That is so super fun. Like, I will do those once a year, twice a year, however they come up. They're so fun. Everyone was telling me like, oh no, because I was looking at the videos. I'm like, I don't know if I can do that. Like, that's insane. There's some like where you jump in like freezing cold ice water. And I'm like, no, it's nuts. You get shocked. I had to swim under barbed wire, and I'm like, no, I'm not doing this. I'm not looking forward to it. I was actually really negative, and I'm not a negative person. And so I was just super scared, I think. And I got there, and people are in like tutus and really funny outfits. And I'm like, what are you guys doing? This is serious. But it's not. It's really fun. It is challenging, but it is so fun. Have you done one? Do you do things like that?
I have not done that. No, I ran in high school, and I ran as punishment as a basketball. Basically running as all through high school is just punishment. Running.
I know.
Like, yeah, I don't ever want to run again. I hate running, and I recently lost 65 pounds, like the end of last year. And my wife is super fit. She works out every day at like 4:45. But no, I have not done. But it looks interesting. Tough Mudder looks interesting.
No, it is really fun. And actually, so I did the 10-mile one, but they have ones that I think are like 3 miles and 5 miles. 3 miles is really not that far.
Yeah.
Like, I justified it. Like, I'm a big Disneyland goer. I've always been a Disney kid. And I always wear like my Fitbit or whatever, that your tracker. And sometimes I'll do like 15 miles to Disney.
Right.
So it's like, okay, I can do that. No, it's, and then plus there's so much positive energy around you.
Right.
That everyone's like, yeah. And you're like, yeah, it's so fun.
Yeah, get shocked. It's going to be awesome.
Oh my gosh. I have the funniest video. So I did it first. My husband's like, no, he did all of everything. And it's the last one. And he goes, I'm not interested in this. I go, come on, you've done everything. You can't wimp out right now. Like, you've done it all. And he's like, I don't think so. So I said, I'm going to go first. So I went first. Yeah, it hurts. It's not like super fun, but it is funny because everyone's like, and so I went through, and then my husband goes through, and
what is it? Things hanging down or something? Or
yes,
what is it?
Yeah, it's like little like jellyfish.
Okay.
Like, little like wires hanging down and stuff like that, and you have to go through the mud, and there's the hay that you have to go over, and it's crazy. It's not that far, but it's still crazy. And so my husband's going and videoing him, and he gets shocked once, and it's always the big guys because he's a bigger guy. It's always the big guys that are like, ow, like that are whining. And so there's 3 big guys going at once, and they all get shocked at the same time. And the video is hilarious. And they both get out, because you can get out on the side. They both get out on the side, and they're like, nope, not going back in. And I'm screaming in the video going, you're going to hate yourself. You got to keep going. And he goes, no, I won't. No, I won't. And he kept going, but he was not happy.
That is awesome. So funny. Hilarious. So funny. All right. Well, you are wild and crazy. You're just effervescent and passionate, and oh my gosh.
I'm a lot, yes.
Your kids must be like just super mellow. Like,
oh no, they're not. They're not.
How old are your kids?
Diego, who is 5, who my husband swears is little Brianna, so he's terrified. And Lima just turned 2, and she's already a diva. Like, I don't know. I'm terrified.
Very, very fun.
Yeah. Well, no, they're blessed.
Thank you so much for just your wisdom on this. And so I'm going to point people to reach out to you if they're interested in being trained as a recruiter, to themillionairerecruiter.com. And then, of course, if they are in the tech industry, specifically engineers, I'll point them toward your website as well, techees.com.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
We will not be pointing admins to you.
Or I already have one.
Yeah. Great. Well, thanks so much for sharing your wisdom today.
Yeah, that is perfect. Thank you. It was so fun. Have a great day.